In this video, I want to explain some changes that are happening in accounting, reporting, auditing, and analysis in a digital environment that I believe are going to have a crossover effect on digital business reporting. I'm going to explain this and why. So this is a common criteria. There are lots of different ways to explain this, but basically this is a criteria for effective machine information exchange. Okay, you have three specific problems. You have the physical problem of moving information from one system to another. You have the semantics problem of having one system understand the meaning of that information. And you have the effectiveness problem. Is the information complete, consistent, and precise enough so that the receiving and the providing systems have the same understanding of the information? So something I want to point out is that financial reporting is a type of business reporting, but it's a unique type of business reporting. So financial reporting has a richer model to work with than general business reporting. We have the double entry accounting model, the accounting equation, elements of a financial statement defined by a reporting scheme. And the vast majority of reporting schemes intentionally allow flexibility within their models, within permissible boundaries, in order to have a more rich information exchange. So when you fill in a form, it's harder to understand or put the right information into the form. When you can be flexible, you can have a more precise description of a business, and that's what financial reporting is all about. So basically, because you have the need for a reporting entity to change the model, you have extensibility. And that's one of the underlying things that XBRL does. It allows extensibility. What that means is that it can change the terms, association structures, assertions, and therefore the facts that represent some model. Within a fixed model, you don't have that. You have fixed terms, association structures, assertions, and therefore the facts that can be reported, the values can be different, but the structure is pretty much the same. So this is explained in this document, Special Theory of Machine-Based Automated Communications of Semantic Information of Financial Statements. And this document, Artificial Intelligence and Knowledge Engineering in a Nutshell, is important background information. If you don't understand this, you may want to stop this video and read this and then watch this video, because it's critical background information for understanding this video. So what's going on is globally, XBRL is being adopted. You have got 80 countries, millions of reports being created in XBRL. But this is the most interesting to me. This is basically XBRL-based reports, financial reports submitted by public companies to the SEC. This allows variability, extensibility. Most of these do not allow it, or nobody uses it because it's not required. So the ESMA, the European Single Market Authority, is also taking an approach similar to the SEC, and they have created what they're calling the European Single Electronic Format, which is basically XBRL plus another layer of inline XBRL. I'm not going to go into that, but basically, so what you got going on here is you got these are not extensible. This is an error. This should be not extensible. This is extensible. These are generally not extensible. So this is the interesting piece right here, this extensible piece, and I'll talk about that in a bit. So the key technology enablers that are at play are basically knowledge-based systems or other applications of artificial intelligence. And I'm focused on rule-based systems, not machine learning. structured information such as XBRL or RDF or OWL or JSON. Model-based systems, it's basically models to explain knowledge, such as SBRM, how it provides a logical conceptualization of a business report, and digital distributed ledgers, which basically make it so that more data is available to use with these systems. So I would state that this is a transformation that is occurring. This is highly novel stuff. It is not the way that you create financial reports, and that will also change the way business reports are created. And this is highly complex. But the pieces are coming together globally, and you'll see this. And this is going to be a transformation in my view. So business intelligence software. So you know what it is. You can read this, but basically, fundamentally, what I want to point out is that business intelligence software tends to be data warehouse or data mart driven, and data warehouse and data mart systems tend to be OLAP based. So here are some issues though with OLAP, and I want to show you how XBRL and SBRM will disrupt, or I don't know what you call it. It's going to have an impact on business intelligence. So there is no global standard OLAP. Each of these systems, these BI systems work differently. They're all proprietary, whereas XBRL and SBRM are global standards. So generally, business professionals cannot change cubes. It takes an IT person to change a cube. You have to go in and create a SQL query or whatever. But basically, within XBRL and SBRM, business users can change cubes. OLAP tends to use only rollups, whereas there's robust computational support in both XBRL and SBRM. I'll point that out here in a bit. You can't really exchange metadata or data between systems. Each of these systems is proprietary. You can't move information from one to another. Let's see. You cannot transfer cubes of information between these silos. So basically, with XBRL and SBRM, you can change the metadata, or you can move information, facts, between these between any system, because it's a global standard that each system supports. The metadata within these systems, I kind of said this above, but this more focuses on that. You can change the metadata. You can take the entire model and facts, export them, and then import them into another system that supports the XBRL and SBRM standard. OLAP tends to be focused on numeric data types and has limited support for text types. SBRM and XBRL use numbers or words. OLAP tends to be internally focused. SBRM and XBRL tend to be web-based, so you can use them across entire supply chains. And OLAP tends to be read-only. XBRL and SBRM is read-write. So these are some substantial new capabilities that I believe that XBRL and SBRM are going to bring to the table. So what do I mean by information? So this is a cube of information. And you can click on things and get more information. And so this is what I'm talking about when I mean information. A structure of information. And And I'm not going to go into the details. I have other videos that do that. But what I'm trying to point out is that XBRL and SBRM enable standard setters, regulators, or enterprises to specify information in machine-readable form. It enables a bearer of information to produce information consistent with that specification in machine-readable form. And it enables an information receiver or consumer to effectively consume the information leveraging that specification. So what I did was deliberately, rigorously, and methodically tested how to use XBRL and SBRM with financial reports. And what I have basically come up with is a way and a realization that basically the rules provided by XBRL and SBRM are the orchestra leader that enables harmony, and they mitigate disharmony and prevent anarchy within an information exchange. It enables effective information exchange. So my objective was to get extensibility of XBRL to work effectively, and I've done this by testing this for financial reporting, and it works for financial reporting, and it's needed in financial reporting. But I believe it will have a crossover effect into general business reporting, because I believe that there are applications of general business reporting that also require this same variability or flexibility of financial reporting. So this is what I mean. So I took the very basics. This is a structure. This is one structure. The accounting equation. I represented it in XBRL, plus I represented all the rules that are necessary to make sure that this system remains a properly functioning logical system. Okay? So I tested this to make sure that it would work. You can get your head around this. This is not a problem. I then expanded my testing to the FASB's SFAC 6 elements of a financial statement, which has three structures rather than just one: a balance sheet, changes in equity, and comprehensive income. And made this work correctly so I could understand, what makes it work, what makes it break. Then I did the same thing I did SFAC 6 again, but I added the not-for-profit information so I could start getting into some variability, and made this work so I can understand why it works and how to make it work and that it works. And I did the same thing for the common elements of a financial statement, basically taking SFAC 6 and expanding it, adding the cash flow statement. And then I did the same thing for this trial balance prototype that I created for internal financial reporting. And then I did the same thing for what I'm calling the proof. So what I did is I took all the information model patterns, because those other systems didn't have all these patterns. I put all the information patterns together so that I can test to make sure that each type of information pattern works correctly and that they interact with other cubes, hypercubes, correctly, so that basically I can say that the entire system is working correctly. So then I expanded it some more and expanded it some more. And then I tested it with real financial reporting schemes like the International Public Sector Accounting Standards, Financial Reporting Framework for Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises, published by the AICPA, IFRS. But I did most of my testing using US GAAP. I did very extensive testing of US GAAP. I have 68 disclosures that I'm working with this in the system, but I have thousands. I have 1,000 disclosures that I have working effectively with US GAAP reporting. So I get visibility into a report by simply looking at these buttons, and I can click on a button to get more detail. And I don't want to go into this, but basically I want to explain the capabilities of XBRL plus SBRM. And I want you to notice that what you see is not that technical. It's not technical at all, I believe. but it's intentionally designed to be understandable by business professionals, because these are the people who have to use this stuff. And if they can't use it, it's never going to be adopted. But I believe that it can be used by the average business professional. So some of the capabilities that are important or interesting. So first, all these rules, they can be local, they can be on the web, they can be statically applied, they can be dynamically applied. You can pick and choose. But basically, the point is that the rules are all, how you use them are flexible. The second thing is, I showed you flat lists of disclosures, but you can also distinguish between alternative disclosures. So here, I'm showing a property, plant, and equipment subclassifications disclosure. That's information that would have to be reported. But here's an alternative. So it doesn't find this one, it finds the alternative. So basically, you can have class, subclass type relations with these disclosures. So the next thing is you can combine structures. So here you see the balance sheet is made up of assets, liabilities, and equity roll-up. Cash flow statement is made up of net cash flow roll-up and a cash and cash equivalents roll forward. So what I mean by this is that these structures, so all these different structures, these are all flat, but you can group them into sub-assemblies, for this assembly, in essence, is what's going on. So the next thing is that, remember I said OLAP only supports roll-ups. Well, XBRL and SBRM support adjustments, roll forwards, variance, and literally any arithmetic computation, and dimensional roll-ups, dimensional aggregations also. Yeah, that's good enough. So what this means is that, I said financial reporting has some advantages. So it has a double entry accounting model. So this is what causes this these interconnected structures. This is the four statement model plus I've added other computations that fit. This is for a correction of an error. This is for a dimensional breakdown. This is for comparing different scenarios. All these are supported by this SBRM plus XBRL model. You can also have non-mathematical associations, just a set of any arbitrary words or numbers. You can have prose, which is basically, paragraphs of text or an entire table. This is what XBRL calls a text block. Or, ordered lists, unordered lists, anything that XHTML supports can be done in XBRL. The data types, they're all XML schema data types, and you can use the entire XML schema 2.0 specification to restrict data types, but these are just the base data types. Here are the OWL data types. This is a multidimensional model. Think pivot table, which is just like, it's a different pivot table than OLAP. This is a multidimensional pivot table that's different than an OLAP pivot table. I don't want to get into that right here. In addition, in OLAP, the hypercubes tend to exist in isolation, in a silo. So here, you can do what I call hypercube jumping because the hypercubes are not in silos. Here is a list of all the hypercubes where this fact exists, and you can navigate through any of these structures just by clicking this link in this application here. So this is a rules-based expert system that I created with a software engineer. What this is this is the SFAC 6 Elements of Financial Statements from the FASB. It has 3 structures. We've added one structure. There are 2 additional structures that need to be added. It knows about these structures because of the disclosure rules, and that's how it knows what goes in this agenda, and what you have completed gets moved over here. So basically, this is an expert system for creating a financial report, and you can do the same thing for business reports. There are multiple views of information. You can see renderings, you can see the model, the fact table, the rules, the validation against the rules, the terms that make up, and then all this stuff is used to create this rendering by software applications. So, and some other information. So it's multilingual. This is about words or numbers. Financial or non-financial information can be used. Financial information has some advantages because it can create more rules, because it has that higher level structure. But business reporting schemes could create their own high level structures, and then they could have unique features, possibly. And this is all human readable and machine readable. So here you see the XBRL syntax. This is a layer of inline XBRL, which is basically XHTML, that the same information exists in an XHTML document, and you can extract information directly from this document. This was manually created. This is machine-generated inline XBRL. You took this information and generated this representation. We did this. So this is a dynamic representation where software generated information from this using those rules, and we just very quickly converted this into that, and that's why these two look the same. But you can have these auto-generated look however you want. You have very rich explanation and justification mechanisms. All this stuff, a business user, particularly accountants, have to have the ability to go from the origin of the information all the way up to the report and understand everything that has occurred. And so I'm going to call that good. I think this does a good job of explaining the kind of capabilities of XBRL plus SBRM. I'm going to stop there.